Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and got some great guests coming in the studio today and some folks that we'll be interviewing. And first, we want to talk to Dr. Greg Smalley. Now, he's the son of Dr. Gary Smalley, and as you know, Dr. Greg Smalley is the host of the Everyday Relationships. It's a new live call-in program produced by Focus on the Family, coming out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And we here at theDove are excited and honored to be one of the first stations to carry that. So we had a chance to talk to him earlier about the program and relationships. So join me now as we talk to Dr. Greg Smalley. Well, today we're having one of our special programmers on the air. Delighted to have with us on Focus Today, Dr. Greg Smalley. And of course, you hear him on Everyday Relationships on theDove radio, starting at 2 o'clock. And he's a real person. He has a real face. And ta-da, there he is. Hi, Greg.
You know, that can often be a big disappointment for people.
Oh, I don't know.
He sounds so good looking on air, but then to see him, it's like, well, all right. Must be a nice guy. It's good personality.
Hey, listen, first of all, congratulations on your new title. You're Vice President of Family Ministries there at Focus on the Family. Is that just a bigger title with more work?
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Oh.
You know, it actually, what's fun about it is I get to give kind of leadership to not just only marriage, but also to the parenting initiatives and programs and things that we do. So, but it's an honor. So it's a little bit, it's a lot more responsibility. I don't know why they chose me. So yeah, you start scraping the bottom of the barrel, and there it was.
They say it's lonely at the top, but you eat better.
That is so true, as you can tell by the round. You know, I always tell people, you know, I'm in shape because round is actually a shape.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, listen, you guys have really struck a chord with everyday relationships. I mean, you're talking about everyday relationships, all kinds of them. And it's amazing how tangled that can get sometimes.
Oh boy, you know that was our heart, our passion, the excitement for the show was. What would it be like if we could just every day, just be real, be honest. Let's talk about relationships. God created us to be in relationship with Him, with others, with ourselves. I mean, there's a lot of relationships that we're supposed to be a part of and have healthy relationships, and we know that that's not always the case. And they're wonderful, and we want to talk about the good. We want to celebrate marriage. We want to celebrate all these relationships, but let's be honest. Let's be transparent. Let's talk about, you know what, sometimes they're full of so much pain, so much heartache. You know, sometimes we crash into these relationships and we're in conflict and we're hurt. And that was really the heart and passion of the show is what could we just all come together and let's just talk about all these different kinds of relationships and be real and be honest and just learn from one another.
Well, you know, part of this, I might say to our viewers and listeners, Focus on the Family, this is their first live call-in show they've done for many, many years. And so if you really want to talk to Dr. Greg Smalley one-on-one, him and Susie, you can just call the show live, 2 o'clock on the West Coast side. Hey, listen, of all the relationships you deal with, and you guys deal the whole gamut, is marriage still the biggest one you get the most questions about?
It is. You know, we get approximately, let's say, 30,000 calls per month here at Focus on the Family. Get tons of letters, emails, I mean, all of that. And by far, the biggest question revolves around that marriage relationship. And it makes sense. I mean, you know, as go our marriages, so go our families. And you know, we get into a lot of trouble. You know, we frustrate one another. And, you know, and again, a lot of what we're trying to do is also to celebrate marriage, to talk about the success stories and, you know, how are we making it, but be real and be honest. And so, you know, I would think, you know, one of the biggest things though, that you can see kind of our culture shifting is if you looked at the kind of letters that we were getting before, it's around busyness. And you know, we are, you know, I don't know if that's something new, but let's admit it. We are all so massively busy, you know, raising kids, working, careers, church, activities galore. And I think what happens, unfortunately, that marriage sort of gets put on the shelf. The hope, the idea, the fantasy is that, you know, I can be married and be busy with doing everything else and sort of put my marriage on cruise control. And somehow that we'll just stay happily married. And it's just, unfortunately, that's not true. That marriage is something that has to be built into every day. I think one of my very favorite quotes says that marriage is an edifice that needs to be rebuilt every day. And that's true. We've got to do something every day. And that's what we talk a lot about that on the show as well.
Greg, can a marriage move forward after a major disagreement or a major fight?
100 million trillion %. I mean, I think the lie from the evil one is that, that's what you guys just went through. Oh boy, people don't come back from that. It's going to be too hard. It's too difficult of a road. There's been too much pain. Lie from the pit of hell. Because before I came to Focus, for, I don't know, maybe 10 years, I ran a marriage ER, basically a ministry devoted just to working with couples in crisis. And I tell you what, Perry, I've seen some of the most amazing miracles, things that I went, whoa, what you guys, this is going to be challenging. And just to see where God has brought them. I mean, all things are possible. I know that's the Christian thing to say. But you know what? Here's the problem, though, and this is what we don't talk about. When we go through hard times, when we go through maybe infidelity, when we go through conflict and hurt and pain, trials in our marriage, the problem is that it shuts our hearts down. And I don't think that's something that we talk a lot about. In the problem, remember Jesus said that Moses permitted you to divorce because of the hardness of your heart. In a heart that keeps getting wounded, keeps closing, and over time, a closed heart is going to eventually harden. And that's why I'm convinced that is the reason why couples divorce and marriages end, is because eventually hearts hardened. And it doesn't have to be that way. Because I love the rest of that. That's Matthew 19:8, where Jesus said, Moses permitted you to divorce because of the hardness of your heart, but that wasn't the way from the beginning. And God created our hearts to be open. And if you remember back to those early times of marriage, we had open hearts. It's just a lot of the stuff that goes on shuts us down. So that's why, honestly, on the show, hopefully, as you were a regular listener, you would hear us over and over and over and over and say, boy, it really comes down to learning how to keep your heart open. And that's what we get so excited to talk about on the show, is let's just take little different issues and scenarios and keep teaching people how to keep their hearts open. Because I'm convinced when two people have open hearts, see, God does the rest. I mean, these relationships are not that challenging. We make them hard when our hearts close down to each other.
Part of this, Greg, and you know this very, very well, and that is you got to open the door for God to come into the scene.
Yeah.
And all your training and all of the theories and seminars, they have their place, but sooner or later, the couple, the individual, the person has to come in contact with God. And how do you direct them to that? You and Jesus need to have a meeting.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you have to go. We rather this has become old for those who've heard the show for a while, but we start every single show by saying that we're here to help you live out the greatest commandment, to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then to love others as you love yourself. So first and foremost is that relationship with God. In every show that we do, I mean, we're pointing people back to God. One is the answer. When our heart opens back to Him, let Him do that healing work. I think it was in Joel, the book of Joel, like 2 something. There's this great little phrase that says, "Rend your heart open," and that's why. And what I love about that is it applies to like a marriage relationship. Is that when your heart is shut down, or when your heart maybe is hardened, the only way that it's ever going to change is that first and foremost, you have to rend your heart back open to God. He says in that passage of Scripture, I don't want your clothes. Don't rip your clothes, because that was the tradition of the Israelites way back when. Ripping of the clothes. He said, no, I don't want that. I want your heart. Wow. Rip your heart back open to me, and that's why for anything to change, it's got to start with that individual and their heart being opened, them choosing, ripping their own heart back open to God, because He's safe, because he's the one that is our source of life. He is the one that keeps us full, and we've got to go there first. But then I love the greatest commandment. So go to God first with all your heart, and then what do we do with others? But I like how that it says to love others as you love yourself. And again, I think that's a message that we're not really great at giving in our world, especially in our church communities. That it sounds selfish. So love yourself. I mean, loving yourself means you learn how to keep your heart open and full of God's love, so that you can turn right around and just give out his love to others. I mean, that's really how it's supposed to work. So we try to make those three things practical each show. And we'll say, hey, today on today's show, we're talking about our relationship with God. My dad's the guest, and he teaches the difference between memorizing scripture, which we're supposed to do, but versus writing God's word in your heart. And that's a very different thing. And so that's a good example of just how do we do that within our relationship with God, and then what that does to our relationships.
All right. Well, you're going to have the two Dr. Smalleys today.
That's right.
Coming up at 2 o'clock on the Dove Radio, so tune it in and check it out. Before I let you go, give us an update on the Family Project. What is it and when it's going to be available?
Yeah, what's neat here at Focus, one of the things we're trying to do is to inspire people. And the way that we're trying to inspire people is with this statement, okay? We want to help you create a marriage and family worth repeating over the next 3 generations. I mean, think about that. I love my wife, and I'm committed and passionate about my marriage. But you know what? I want my kids to look at our marriage, and not that it's perfect, because it's not. Trust me, and you hear the stories, okay? It's not perfect, but what I want them to do is to say, you know what? I want what my parents had, maybe differently, but I want that. I want a marriage like theirs. And then I want to think about my grandkids. How do I help my kids? How do I help my own marriage? But then my grandkids have marriages worth repeating. Let's just worry about the next 3 generations.
Wow.
So that in order to do that, we really need to understand God's design for the family. Why is this really that important? What does it matter? And who cares if we create marriages and families worth repeating over the next 3 generations? Well, it does matter. And that's the Family Project.
Wow.
This is something that's going to come out here probably in the next year.
Wow.
That is going to rock our world, because it's I think that what's going on in our culture is that we're redefining marriage just based on what we think. And no. Marriage, God's idea. Family, God's idea.
Yeah.
What does he say about that? So what I like is it's going to bring us back to just a very clear understanding of what marriage and family really means, and the purpose, and what that means from God's view.
That's wonderful.
And then from there, so if you say, yes, I want to create a marriage and family worth repeating over the next 3 generations, then from the Family Project, we'll show you then, okay, here's how you then do that. And we're going to give you the tools and the skills. And we've narrowed it down to 12 things. If you learn these 12 things, you're going to have a great marriage.
All right, that's coming out
a great
when?
Family.
When? In about a year?
That will come out. Yeah, it's about a year away. So it should come out late, either 2014 or spring of 2015.
All right.
I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for your time. I know you're on a fast track, and my advice to you tonight is do the dishes.
Oh, you know what? I do that every night.
You do all the dishes tonight. So do I. I think she
so
cooks.
I'm going to do it.
You do all the dishes, no and take out the garbage.
Oh, see, now that's just...
Go ahead, try it. You can get over it.
All right, fine. I'll give it a shot, and then I'll report back what happened. It better be good, though.
Hey, we'll look forward to hearing you on the show this afternoon. Thanks, Greg. All right, God bless you, pal.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
All right, again, Dr. Greg Smalley, and of course, you can hear him on the Dove coming up this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Coming up next, I have some brothers in the studio that I think you're going to find pretty inspiring to talk to. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Well, welcome back, and I am really honored to have in the studio with us today Jacob and Steven Lapp. These are brothers from the Amish community, and they head up a ministry called the Light of Hope Ministries, and they're traveling in their motorhomes around the country, and they're in Medford right now, and I want to find out what they're doing here. So, gentlemen, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Nice to see
And we
you.
have Jacob here and Steven there.
The other way around.
That's why I said we have Steven here and Jacob there. Nice to have you. And you're living in your motorhomes.
Yes. Yeah.
And with your families, there's three of you, three families moving around, and you're in Medford, and you're going to Portland, and then you're working your way back, right? Well, what is the Light of Hope Ministries? Tell me, guys.
Light of Hope Ministries was started in 2006. Before that, even we were meeting with people, praying with people, seeing miracles happen, but especially emotional healing. A lot of hurting people, and they were coming for help. They were coming for prayer, for advice, and things like that. And so in 2006, we went full-time and working with people, find people to be very interesting to work with.
Wow. And how rewarding is that?
That's very rewarding. It can be a challenge because people can really kind of get irritated if you get close to the truth and close to pain. But once they break through that, it's very rewarding.
All right, so how do you get them to forgive? Now, let me say this in a little bit of a preference. The Amish are known with a rich history of forgiveness. You guys have seen national tragedy in your communities. I'm thinking of the school shooting. And you say your wife went to that school?
Yeah, my wife went to, I think, first two grades of her life in Nickel Mine School. Yeah.
Nickel Mine School, and that's where that incredible shooting took place. And how many were killed?
There was 10 girls were shot, 5 of them were killed, and 5 survived.
And somehow you were able to forgive. How do you do that, and how would somebody do that that's had trauma in their life? What's the process you lead them through?
Well, it helps a lot when you're taught from a little boy or a little girl that forgiveness is the way to go. You don't hold on to stuff. You let God deal with things. And so when you're able to take this and give it to God, then you don't have to carry it yourself. And so that makes it a whole lot easier, and let God deal with it.
So how do you lead somebody through that? What's the process you guys do?
First of all, most of the time what happens is people need to understand the benefits of forgiveness, because everybody's thinking about, well, if I forgive, what am I going to lose? Like, I don't have anything to hold on to. But when they see the benefits of letting go, when they see the benefit of just, I don't have to hold this anymore, I don't have to hold it inside, everything can loosen up, you can return to peace. A lot of people don't have peace in their life, and it's because they're holding on to things. When you show them that, and you teach them the benefits of forgiveness, and then you teach them how to just take it to the cross and pray and say, Lord, I bring this to you. I can't hold it anymore. I can't carry it anymore. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to let you deal with it.
Seems so simple, but you use the word miracles. You have seen miracles. How would you describe a miracle?
Well, one example is there was this person that had broken bones, and he was in the hospital. They'd taken x-rays and everything. We went in and prayed for him, and then they went to put a pin in his leg and put him in traction, and they came back and said, well, that leg's not broken after all. It's that type of miracles, we've seen them, and it's amazing when God does that.
Wow. I asked you before we went on the air, is the Amish community growing? And you both said yes. And what is the attraction?
Well, for the main part is the Amish are largely able to keep their own people and large families, so automatically it grows in that way. It does not grow very much at all by people coming actually into the Amish, because it's it's so restrictive. There's no electricity, there's no TV, no radio, and things like that.
But here you are on TV and radio today.
We are. Yeah, we're not normal.
Okay, so well, I was going to ask you that question. Are you brothers kind of outside the norm?
We are.
Are you castigated for that?
Yes. But the Amish community is changing, slowly changing. Little by little technology comes in. But the first people that are like on the cutting edge are usually
the pioneers
separated. Yeah, they have to go through some things to bring change, because and largely it's for protection. You know, they want to protect their own people. They want to keep things from exploiting or from bringing change that will harm. And so the person that sees the benefit of a change and starts to reach out there and bring change is often shot at, not literally, but you know.
Yeah. So what is the structure that would bring you under scrutiny for stepping outside the circle, so to speak?
What is the structure?
Yeah, I mean, do you have like a priest or a headmaster that you report to? Or?
There's bishops.
Bishops,
and
okay.
bishops are kind of the head of the whole thing, and then and the bishops of the different communities will get together twice a year and they'll discuss things, and you know. And
are you talking physical structure or?
Yeah, well, I just didn't know that.
Spiritual structure.
Well, spiritual. I mean, at the most part, isn't your community trying to protect the spiritual integrity and the innocence of the community? I mean, it's a purity thing.
Yeah.
And forgive me if I'm not saying it right, but you're trying to protect a civility, a purity, an innocence, and yet a spiritual integrity.
Yes.
And anything on the outside would be somewhat an influence on that.
Yeah.
Right.
And but then there's fear mixed in with that.
Yeah.
And that causes a bit of instability.
Because it's unusual. I mean, aren't you guys kind of like evangelists then?
Yeah, you could say that.
Because do Amish normally don't have evangelists, do they?
Right.
Where you go outside?
In 1525, there was a movement. The Protestants stepped away from the Catholics, and then the Anabaptist movement came out of the Protestant movement, where there was 3 men that were being mentored by Ulrich Zwingli in Switzerland. He was one of the reformers. And they were questioning the issue on infant baptism versus being baptized on confession of faith.
Right.
And he agreed with them, but politically he couldn't go there because he was politically head of the whole state. And so he acknowledged truth, but he couldn't go there, so they stepped out from that system. And in time they started getting persecuted. But about 100 years later, 120 years later, they were offered a compromise. This was the Mennonites. The Mennonites were offered a compromise to become the silent in the land in exchange for no persecution, in exchange for financial security and social acceptance. So if they would work the land and they would stay to themselves and become silent, they wouldn't evangelize, go into all the world and preach the gospel, they would be allowed to have their security. But what we see is that was the enemy's way of offering a compromise instead of the people pushing through all the way to what God wants.
Instead of where it says, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel," it became a secluded, protect our own people type of thing.
They received a compromise, but the benefits of that compromise was they were no longer divided from their families and things like that. So they were standing for truth even in the face of losing their farms and their families. And so this thing turned inward, and they literally signed documents.
Oh, okay.
So now you gave a spirit a right to control the whole people group.
And you guys are trying to move it back out again.
And we're seeing this. We're seeing where it was wrong. We're seeing where God wants to bring it on track, which is the biggest battle that we have, is to bring this thing to divine order.
I told you this was going to be a fast show. Are you ministering tonight or locally? What are you doing here?
Yeah, we're at the Jerusalem Center, 6 Mace Road.
Okay.
In Medford.
Is that tonight?
Tonight at, is it 7 or 7:30? 7, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
And then tomorrow is a children's thing from 11 to 2.
Okay.
And then tomorrow night at 7.
Okay.
And then Sunday morning at 10.
Okay.
And, or is it 11?
Yeah,
11 tomorrow.
You got some guys.
Yeah, 11.
Jerusalem Center. Everybody knows Dave Gomez in the Jerusalem Center.
Yeah. and then Sunday evening.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you. I wish I had more time. I'd love to really explore this. And when you come back through, give us a little bit more warning so we can maybe have you for a couple of segments, all right?
We didn't even know you lived.
Well, here we are. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. Blessings on you. Best to you. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, welcome back. And hey, I am always excited to have a fellow broadcaster with us today. And we have with us Tony Stiles, and he hosts the Tony Stiles Show. And he's an award-winning entrepreneur, media analysis and political commentator. And he calls himself the Mohawk Nation due to his Mohawk haircut. And we want to talk to him about all kinds of things today. And I'm glad I have him for a couple of segments. Tony, nice to have you, my friend.
It's a pleasure. I look forward to having the segment with you.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, listen, so much going on in the media stuff. First of all, what made you become a media analyst? Because I'm going to enjoy our conversation together.
I have no idea. I kind of fell into it. There was just one day I was at the radio station doing some charity work. They have a St. Jude's Radiothon. That's why I have this mohawk, is we raise anywhere between 50 to 150,000 every year for them. And every year that we do that, I have to keep on doing this. But I was inside, yeah. So I was inside there, and somebody said, you know, you have a good voice for radio. You want to try that out? And I've always been political, and I've always been active. And I said, sure, you know, let's give it a shot. And next thing you know, I have a radio show, and now we're getting syndicated as of the 15th of next month on about 40 stations.
Well, good for you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's great. Did you happen to catch Michael Savage last night?
Every once in a while I catch it. My life's a blur. I probably did. I don't know how intently I was listening.
Well, he made a prediction last night that kind of ties into what we can talk about. And that it all hinges off the fact that, as you know, Fox News has announced that Megyn Kelly's going to go over and take the Sean Hannity slot at 9 o'clock. And he went on to say that Hannity is done, and he predicted that he probably will take Hannity's slot on the Cumulus Radio Network. And I'm thinking, all right, only Michael Savage can make something radical like that. But, you know, the guy has not been wrong on too many occasions.
Yeah, this is something that I predicted a while ago. He must be listening to me.
Okay, whatever.
No, it's true. What I've said ever since you've had Sean Hannity on screen with Karl Rove putting up these whiteboards with these fake graphs of, you know, oh, Mitt Romney's going to win. He's in. It's a landslide for Mitt Romney. And I was looking at it, and all you have to do is follow the money to see what's going to happen. And if you compare Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, as far as the donations go, Barack Obama was going to have it. It was already in the books in May. So I kept on watching Hannity, and I go, man, this guy is really going to get himself in trouble. And then next thing you know, Barack Obama's in office, and I'm just watching Sean Hannity just drop like a rock.
All right, well, it's happening. Why do you think Fox has moved Megyn into that slot?
Well, because Sean Hannity can't hold the audience anymore. The people don't see him as trustworthy, is what it comes down to. People don't see him as trustworthy because, just like I said, the whole Karl Rove thing and a bunch of other people saying, oh, it's a landslide, and when it was perfectly apparent to anybody that could look and analyze things the correct way that he was just feeding people what they wanted to hear instead of the truth. And Rush Limbaugh is in a lot of trouble for doing the same thing. Megyn Kelly coming into that spot is, I've always thought Megyn Kelly deserved her own show to begin with. I don't watch a whole lot of Fox News, but it's pretty easy to tell. Megyn Kelly, she's got it. She knows what's going on.
She really
does.
She's
quick.
Yeah.
And for her to move into that slot, that's perfect. Hannity, I don't know if he's going to be completely gone, but he may end up in a different slot or in a slot with somebody else, a lot like the Hannity and Combs that they used to have.
You know, what's interesting, she is bright. Megyn Kelly's bright. I mean, she's a pretty lady. But she's on top of it. The other thing I see here is positioning in case there's a Hillary run. You got a woman taking on a woman.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of talk from what I'm seeing, and I've analyzed this a little bit. There's some talk that that we may see Michelle Obama make a run at it.
No. Okay. Well,
think about it.
Yeah, I am thinking about it. What do you think young people are looking for in talk radio? Now, talk radio is a two-edged sword. There's a good side to it. There's a bad side to it, as you well know.
Yeah.
And I've been in it for 40 years, and so I get it. But it's always a challenge to us because we spend a lot of time here doing generational research and science research to find out what's going on and make sure you're targeting your audience and all of those things. Do young people, and I'll say young people, do millennials and Xers, do they like talk radio, or do they find it boring and too cynical?
They don't. Well, you ask yourself the same question. When you were our age, did you want to see old people talking or hear old people talking? Because they weren't representing what you believe in, right? It's the same thing. We're getting a lot of that right now. We have a lot of old people out there. No offense to old people. I like old people. A lot of good friends are old people. But when it comes down to it, when it comes to the issues of what's actually going to take place in the future, we feel kind of betrayed by the old people. We're putting in money into a system like Social Security, for example, that we're not going to get anything back from. This is why Bernie Madoff's in jail. We're paying into a system that's paying off the old investors, and the new investors aren't going to get anything. And there's not a whole lot of talk about that kind of stuff. And that's just one issue. There's a lot of issues that we're running into. Talk radio is made for a 40-plus audience, more or less. Right. And for some reason, I managed to get in with an 18 to 39 category and still get a lot of the 40-plus just because of the type of commentary that I do.
Are young people concerned about things? Are they concerned about what's happening on the political scene? Are they concerned about the downfall of our nation?
They are. They're concerned about it when people put it in their terms. Okay. So far, nobody's really doing that. That's not something that's out there for young people. We hear a lot of, the baby boomers and people like that. We hear their side of things, but the young people, they're not interested in it because it hasn't been put to them the way it should be put to them. And that's what I'm trying to do. So
what are we missing? I mean, we're talking about the issue, but we're obviously not communicating on the right language or the right frequency.
Yeah, that's true. The right language for it. And there's also a symmetry that has to go between social media and radio now that I'm sure you know of. What it comes down to, young people, they want to hear the problems that not just pertain to them, but how the problems of today are going to equate to problems for us. And that's a big problem because nobody's talking about that. We have problems, the debt, for example. There's no foreseeable way that we're going to get out of this. And nobody's coming up with a plan. And to be quite frank, nobody cares to come up with one. Because they know that they can just pass the dollar, they can just pass the buck down to me. And we're not going to complain about it because nobody out there like me is talking about it. Now, hopefully we can get that message out there and they will have to pay attention.
You said something earlier, Tony, that really says it all. You feel betrayed by the adults. And I get that. To me, it's alarming because the young people are smart. They see it. Your generation sees it. We're handing you guys a mess. And we're asking to be thanked for it. There's nothing to be thanked for.
That's the honest truth. That you wonder, young people, for example, and going back to the young people thing, we are betrayed, and there's no other way to put it. I wish there was another word to use. The ones that actually do know what's going on, we do feel betrayed, and I feel betrayed. It's not that I'm angry with my mom or my dad or my grandparents. But I am a little upset that they allowed things to just, somebody else will take care of it. Well, we're coming down to the point where it's poop or get off the pot, so to speak. And that's where we're at. And we're the generation that's going to have to fix all of this mess that's been created, and nobody's talking about it. So how are we supposed to figure things out? Nobody's giving us a roadmap for this. Nobody's setting one in place.
Do you have hope for the future?
I think America will fall like Russia within the next 25 years.
So you don't have any hope?
I have hope, but it's going to be after we rebuild. That's the only thing that I can see. There's really not a good way to get out of this. We're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's why they haven't tried to fix it, because I have a feeling that they know that there's just no way to do it at this point.
There's another attribute for your generation that to me is very encouraging. Everything I read is your generation will drop everything to go help somebody, to go serve, to go do something. Do you sense that as well?
I do. it is kind of special. I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe the lack of people skills, maybe that from social media, not having the person-to-person interaction. We don't get burnt as much person-to-person as people did in the past. And this is my psychology thing. This is my degree talking. Yeah. What I see is that younger people, we don't have the same person-to-person interaction that the other generations have had. So we haven't been burnt quite as much as other people have by other people face-to-face. So we're a lot kinder to people face-to-face, and we're willing to go out of our way to help people face-to-face because it's not an interaction where we see ourselves getting burnt quite as much as the past generations have. Wow. That's one way that I can say it.
Let me take a quick break here, Tony. We'll come back, and I want to ask you, so therefore, are young people interested in the political system? If they see it broken, and in your case, you're thinking, well, 25 years we're going to collapse, then what are you doing? I mean, you're just going to go out and go fishing the rest of your life, you know? Anyway, we'll be right back with Tony Stiles when we come back here.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and our guest is Tony Stiles, and he has his own talk show, The Tony Stiles Show, which is on the Radio America Network. And he's also a media analysis and political commentator. And I see you're also alumni of King's College, and you're a former Baptist missionary to Romania.
I am.
All right.
Absolutely.
You know, that's what I want to ask you about that part of your life, Tony. And I say part of your life, it probably is your life, but where are young people with their faith in all of this? If they look at the older generation, they feel somewhat betrayed. They look at a country that's upside down and probably going to go under. At least that's what they're thinking. Do they want to get involved in the political system, and how involved are they with their faith?
This is an interesting thing, and I've analyzed this a lot. What I've seen is you have young people going one way to an extreme or another way to an extreme. And Republicans are seeing a lot of young people abandon the Republican Party because of it's somewhat of a middle ground now. You're seeing people jump to libertarian or anarcho-capitalist, going that direction, saying we need to stop spending, period, stop it, nothing, no more, we're done, stop it, we're on a bad path. You're seeing people go that way, or you're seeing people go the complete other way into the democratic socialist area. And so they see a way, they have faith in that way of, putting more money in and getting more money out because of it. So you're seeing the Republican Party suffer a little bit because of that. As far as faith goes, that's a hard thing. Christian faith for young people, we're seeing the results right now of atheism being taught in public schools. We're seeing that result finally over the past 5 years. We're seeing it come out. People are becoming adults, and we're seeing more and more atheists. They said it wouldn't make a big deal. It's no big deal. We're not saying that God can't be in schools. We're saying that we're just going to teach this scientific way of evolution in schools. Well, kids are taking from school as the truth. That's what they're supposed to. They've been taking tests. They're taking tests on evolution and learning that. Of course they think it's true. That's what they've been taught. And we're seeing the results of that over the past few years. And it is kind of disheartening for somebody like me. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ, my personal Lord and Savior. I've been a missionary. I've gone out and I've done things. I have a Bible degree. I feel very upset with the government for pushing this in place, taking prayer out of schools and all that, because now my generation and the generations that are younger than me, you're going to see a lot more atheism coming out of that.
But are you willing to get in the fray to stop it?
I have been. I'm trying. It's hard to do. There's a lot of people that are just so set in their ways, and it's interesting to me. Atheists, for some reason, they are very, very they're not just very into being atheists. They're very against Christianity as a result.
Right.
They think that Christians are stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid people. This isn't a Christian nation. What are you thinking? Well, it's as Christian as we make it. That's the way the country is put together. If there's Christians in a place, they're going to vote in a Christian way, which is going to come out with Christian results. You know, and you have to ask yourself, what way would you rather have it? Would you rather have a bunch of Christians voting or a bunch of heathens voting? It really it comes down to that, and that's where our country's headed.
All right. Now, what do you think young people? Well, you said earlier they either go the libertarian way or they go clear over to the socialist way. So your own generation is being divided down this road.
Oh yeah.
Don't you think America is worth saving?
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. And you know, there's a lot to be said. You know, I don't like socialism. Let me just put that out there right now. I don't like it. I don't think it's right for America. It's not the way America was set up. Mm-hmm. It's not a good thing. But socialism does work. All right, and that's a scary thing to think about, but it does work. All right, and then you have the libertarian side. The don't spend. Let's be capitalists. Let's do things on our own. Get government out of the equation. We can do this by ourselves. We've been doing it for centuries. That's the route that I like, and I've registered as libertarian. I am a very I'm a libertarian. I'm a Christian libertarian is how I define myself.
Okay.
And I think that capitalism is the way to go, but we can't have both of these things working at the same time. Otherwise, you're just banging heads together and not getting anywhere.
Well, that's exactly what's going on now. We seem to be so divided. We can't even find a mutual ground to begin to talk about getting together.
It's getting worse.
Yeah, it really is. Back to the media just for a moment.
Sure.
Fox is, you have to say Fox is successful.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
absolutely.
And in fact, if you add the numbers up, Fox outdoes the other alphabet networks combined. So there's something going on in the country that says we are right of center.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, and you can analyze it a few different ways. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that maybe the other stations, you know, the other alphabets that you named,
right,
maybe they just haven't hit their stride yet, and people just aren't seeing it.
Okay.
You know, and you also have conservative radio, which is king of radio right now.
Right.
You know, there's a lot to be said for that. Maybe it's just that the right they digest information better, and they crave that information more.
Let's look at a couple of these individuals. What do you think of Rush Limbaugh?
Rush Limbaugh? I've listened to Rush for a long time. Who hasn't listened to Rush? I still, every once in a while, because I live in Omaha, Nebraska, you can't avoid right-wing radio. That's just what we have. We don't have any left-wing radio here. Rush Limbaugh, as a person, I don't know him. As a radio host, he does a great job at his job. As far as being relevant, he's not. He's going out with the times.
Wow, that's a big statement. I used to manage the station that he got a start at. So,
yeah,
and yet I've only met him once, but I didn't manage it when he was there. I left after that. All right, let me ask you this, Sean Hannity. Why do you think Sean is going to get booted?
I think he's going to get booted because he's not. People, like I said earlier, he's not presenting things in a way that people find him to be truthful anymore. They've saw what happened with the election. Him saying it's going to be a landslide, you know, this is a Stop Obama Express, woo, woo, all that stuff that he had going on. And it was all malarkey. There's nothing there. And people don't feel like they can trust him. And when you don't have somebody in front of you that you feel like you can trust, that's a warm blanket to you, that's going to tell you like it is, they lose credibility. You can't watch him anymore. That's where his ratings are suffering, and has a lot to do with a lot of things.
The other two is you got Michael Savage and Mark Levin. They're both high throttle, high volume guys.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Mark Levin, I like his content, his voice. Man, he gets a little high pitched and whiny for me, but I dig what he has to say. There's a lot of things where I think he's off base, but Michael Savage, that guy, I like Mike. He takes a risk. I like that. He puts himself out there, and he gets in trouble, and he's not afraid of that trouble. And that makes listening to him fun, because you're listening for something, you're just going, oh, I can't wait for him to say something. Then everybody talks about it the next day, just like we did earlier. And that's neat about him. You know, much like Levin or Limbaugh or Handy, there's things I disagree with. But if you want to point it into as far as radio show hosts go, I think Michael Savage has a good chance at running the gambit here.
All right. Now, as a guy that's been in this all my life, I can say what makes a show succeed is two things. Well, three things. One, it's good show prep. You're learning that probably the hard way. Two is it's entertainment and education. If you can be entertained and learn something, the show will be successful. I think that's what fell through the cracks with Sean Hannity. You never heard anything new, and you didn't hear anything fun.
Yep, that could be it. That's one way to look at it, absolutely. And you know, I think back, I've listened to a lot of Hannity. He just got taken off the radio here in Omaha. Affiliates are dropping out like crazy on this guy. And if this deal goes through with Cumulus and TRN that's going on, this whole thing they're doing with putting things together as far as packaging the advertising and stuff, where he may lose 40% of his audience, that guy, you know, it's a good thing he made money when he did, because there's not going to be a whole lot left.
Well, it's just interesting because it's still a big part of our culture, this talk radio thing. Why do you think liberal talk radio can't make it?
I don't know that it can't make it. I just don't think that that liberals listen to the radio as much, maybe. I don't know. That's a hard one to call. There are successful people like that. Tom Hartman, I was just on his program, I think yesterday, day before yesterday. And he's on Talkers Heavy 100. He's ranked 7th. He's the #1 progressive talk radio. I don't like anything that he has to say, but he's fun to listen to because, you know, I think there's more right wingers listening to progressive radio than there are progressives listening to progressive radio, just because they want to get angry and feel some sort of emotion. We don't have a whole lot of emotion in our culture anymore, and we crave that. And that's why we go after these things. And anybody that's out there, like you said, entertaining, energetic, you know, gets a point across. Anybody that can do that and capture somebody, bring them from high emotions to low emotions to angry to sad, that's going to be somebody that's successful.
Why, or do you think Christians have lost credibility in the marketplace as a voice?
Well, that goes back to that education thing, I think. For the past 5 years, like I said, we have people that are coming out of school that are being taught evolution all the way through, and that's pretty much teaching them the same thing as Christians are wrong. Well, then you lose credibility because of that. And it's really a sad thing. I don't know why we have to teach any sort of thing except for you can choose for yourself. I think that's a better thing to teach people in school. We can teach them about Christianity, about evolution. We can teach them about Islam or Judaism. We can teach them all these things and not necessarily instill it into them like we are with evolution. We can say these are the different things that are out there. You know, it's up to you and your family or whatever to decide what you believe. But these are the things that are out there, and educate them on all the things, because it's just creating a zero tolerance for all religion.
Do you think your faith, your personal faith, that Christianity is the ultimate peacemaker, peace giver in the culture?
I believe Jesus Christ is.
Okay, well, I meant that. Yeah.
Yeah. Christianity. You know, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong in the past with Christianity, and it's because of people. We're not perfect, but if someone can truly speak from their heart with Jesus in their heart and in their mind, and pray for those words to come out of them, and portray that properly, I don't think there's anything that can't be done.
Tony, you're fun to talk to.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I like you too.
How do people get a hold of you and correspond with you and follow you?
Absolutely. You can go to TonyStiles.com. We have a lot of editorials there, videos, shows, and everything you need. Facebook, anywhere that you go. If you Google Tony Stiles, there's going to be me and a hockey player that retired in Canada. So you're going to find me. All
right. So is the mohawk on your head forever, or what's the deal?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. It's becoming quite the staple, so it just may be.
Okay, friend, let's stay in touch, okay?
All right. God bless.
All right, God bless. Talk to you soon. All right, Tony Stiles with us, and we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.